Welcome in. It is week 9. Wow. And a bunch of injuries have happened. More importantly, because most people don't care about tonight's game, it looks like Amon-Ra is probably going to play. If you have a tight end premium league, I would give a boost to Laporta. So think that is also going to move up. But what everybody really wants to know, what are you going to be for Halloween, Mike?
Man, I don't even know if I'm going to dress up. And so it was on a Tuesday. I didn't do anything over the weekend. Busy with work. So I don't have a costume, unfortunately. Do you have one?
Right now, I think I'm going to go as Chandler Bing. So I kind of just bowler shirt for that. And it's hard to not just pay homage at this point, but
for sure. Did you see the kid that dressed up as Mike McDaniel? That was pretty good.
On top of that, favorite candy? Do you have a favorite Halloween candy or just candy in general you want?
Has to be Reese's. That's like the number one for me.
Pieces or peanut butter cup?
Both, but peanut butter cup over Reese's Pieces for sure. And I think underrated candy corn and Tootsie Rolls, I think, are both underrated. And I know they're people hate them or you love them, but especially the fruit flavored Tootsie Rolls, love them.
Those I can get on board with, but candy corn, man, I can't. It's just too weird.
I get it. It is weird. It's like waxy and what does this taste? But I like it. I don't know.
If you're going with that, like I guess underrated is going to be $100,000.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I absolutely love that. Have no idea what's in it, but it's always good every time I eat it. But number one for me is definitely going to be a Midnight Milky Way. I love the dark chocolate, so that rich.
No, I'm there with you for the $100,000. I love that for sure. It's underrated, unappreciated, but definitely Reese's. You can't go wrong with peanut butter cup, Pieces, whatever, pumpkins, Christmas trees, whatever they have these days.
Oh man, it is about time. I wonder if they put out the Christmas trees. Those little Debbie things are so good.
Yeah.
All right, but nobody cares about that. We're going to get in because a lot of people, including myself, has lost their quarterback in Kirk Cousins. They're really hoping that Nick Mullins is going to be the one to come and fill in. Kind of doubt that's going to happen. He is still dealing with a back injury. That is their goal, though, so we'll see how that ends up for him. But with that in mind, the guy, of course, we told him about him pretty much every week, it feels like, since he's become the starter in Indianapolis. Gardner Minshew, 7.5% rostered, even after his big game, gets the Panthers this week, who shocked the world, and clearly CJ Stroud. I have no idea what they were thinking in Houston, but Minshew gets the Panthers. Only 2 games this year where he has started that he's thrown for under 230 yards, and more often than not, it's above 290. Love that for him. Week 6 versus the Titans, 329 yards, 1 touchdown. Week 7 versus the Browns, 27.1 fantasy points, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then week 8 this past week versus the Saints, 14.82 because it threw 213 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's still, that big number is going to be easy, especially because their defense isn't super. And Adam Thielen, I'm sure, is going to have a massive game against them. So with that in mind, I absolutely love rolling out Gardner Minshew this week. So more, or is he at your top of your list too?
I don't know if he's at the top. He's a fine option. I mean, it's a tough week for sure because, Russell Wilson, Goff, Purdy, and Lawrence, all those guys could be your starter. Plus, with all the 5 quarterbacks leaving the game, leaving their games yesterday. So, I have a few on here. I mean, Kyler Murray, again, if you don't need anyone for this week, I would potentially pick him up. We've seen him be a top 5 quarterback in the past, and although the whole language behind him it's kind of weird. Like, they came out instantly and said he's not going to be ready, even though he was off the injury report. So I don't know. It's either going to be him or Clayton Tune this week, but for sure in week 10. So if you can stash If you don't need it for week 9, I would stash Murray. Derek Carr's a decent one.
Really love his matchup.
Yeah, it's the matchup. Plays the Bears in week 9. Bears have given up 20 plus points or more in 4 of 8 weeks. I think they're like 7th best for fantasy quarterbacks. Derek Carr has 3 straight weeks of 18 points, and two of the last 3 weeks he threw the ball 50 times. So if you're gonna throw the ball 50 times, you're gonna put up probably a decent fantasy performance. And then Sam Howell is another one where it's like, man, it's so tough to predict. He's QB8 on the year. I just don't know what. Like,
it's
there's no
really
reason.
flipping a coin, man. I mean,
Yeah.
he's had 2 good games against the Eagles too, which is just like mind blowing.
It doesn't make sense. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to his good or bad games. Like, we thought the Giants, although the Giants defense is looking a lot better the last few weeks, we thought he'd put up a big game there, and he tanked, and a lot of people dropped him. But yeah, he's the number one quarterback this week heading into Monday Night Football. He does play the Patriots in week 8, so tough matchup there for quarterbacks in general. I just don't know about.
Does it actually bother him? It's impossible to tell.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So I think like upside is there for Howe. If you want more of a safer floor, go with Carr. And then what do we think about Will Levis? Like,
again, I have to see it first. I mean, he looked really good in this one game, but can he do it again? Like, yeah. I have to
on
see
a short week against the Steelers.
Who, granted, horrible secondary with the Steelers, and they just lost Minka more than likely this week.
Mm-hmm.
Aegis Wonder coming in, Purdy on bye this week. Yeah. Also Russell Wilson, Jared Goff, and Trevor Lawrence all on bye this week, as well as Brock Purdy clearly. So does he go with Badgen or with Levis for the Titans?
I'm gonna go with Levis. If it's between those two, I'm going Levis.
I feel like the Raiders have a good matchup this week, though.
Who has a good matchup?
Wait, did I?
Oh, the Bears. You mean?
Sorry, yeah.
I don't know. It's just like they're not throwing. They threw the ball deep once. They completed the pass, and then it was just all dink and dunk. Like they just don't want to trust. I always forget if it's Bajan or Badgen, but
Tyson, right?
Hey, they
Tyson.
threw it deep to Velus Jones in the end zone.
Oh yeah,
and he fell down.
You know, he's just not an NFL wide receiver. Is all. That's the only problem.
Anybody else is in that end zone. They probably.
What was that, like a 40-yarder, 50? Like that was a pretty long pass, right?
I mean, he was standing behind midfield, so that was like a 52-yard pass at least.
Yeah, it'd probably still go. Do we even know like is Fields going to come back? Is Fields coming back? They're playing the Saints as well. That's a tough matchup. Like
their secondary though is just so.
Yeah, they already ruled out Fields for this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm still going Levis. I think. I mean, Steelers. They're kind of middle of the road in terms of the points given up to quarterbacks, and I mean, there's no Carr or anything out there. Like you can't find like a Derek Carr.
If those are literally the only two options, then Levis. But
it's probably going to be Levis, but
have to be really desperate. I mean, that's really low down there.
Yeah, it must be I don't know, people stashing quarterbacks or something. But I don't know. I think Levis, just to wrap that up on him, like if you don't need anyone for the next couple of weeks, he might be a decent just grab. And if he repeats this again, you maybe found something. So I like that option. Not necessarily starting this week, but just picking up and being like, all right, I need a quarterback in week 10. Let me grab Levis and see if it's going to work out. So,
well, the other thing, very slight whispers that maybe Tannehill could be an option that they send to the Vikings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
that's true. If they do trade Hopkins, that would suck for Levis. Like, hey, you're a quarterback.
At that point, you get rid of Levis and just pray that.
Yeah. Because man,
you can find something else.
That'd be messed up.
Amy Gonzalez, 1 quarterback league. TD's kind of
the long and short of this is he's got Burrow and Stroud. Should he drop Stroud number 1? And I would say no. I'm good holding the 2 quarterbacks in that situation. And then number 2 in a strategy type situation here. His opponent only has Stafford, who is hurt and may not play this week. Do you pick up Levis off waivers to block him?
If you can drop somebody else, yes. I would also
but then you're carrying 3 quarterbacks.
I know, but you can try at this point. You should try and trade either Stroud or, Levis. They both had their.
Well, he'd have to pick up Levis.
Just as a block.
But I'm saying, like, yeah, I'm with you there. I would try to trade Stroud over trying to trade Burrow. I'd rather have Burrow rest of season.
Correct. Now that he's
Yeah.
fully
If
healthy,
I could trade Stroud and get something for it, that would be great. But the unfortunate part is this is kind of the person that you would be targeting to trade Stroud to, and that's your opponent for this week. So
Yeah. It sounds like just, and you can tell us, and Gonzalez, like, are there just not many quarterback options? Like, if you pick up Levis, is your opponent like just, he has no other options to go with? Because if so, I would definitely do it, like, and just hold it until Sunday morning, and then drop one of them, because that's a pretty smart play. But if there's other options out there, I probably wouldn't pick up a third quarterback, and maybe trade Stroud if you can. Like, I'm fine. I'm even fine with, like, it depends on who you're dropping him for.
yeah, you should. What you
I'm
should be
fine with
doing is trying
dropping
to trade Stroud to the Cousins owner or manager. Sorry, but like that seems like an ideal situation right now. Is you need to be passing that on as quick as you can to somebody who just lost a quarterback, whether it's Dobbs or whomever, Stafford. I mean, not him ideally, but Cousins. If whoever was the manager of Cousins, that's a great move for you.
Yeah, but even if, like, Minshew's out there, Howell, Carr, if those guys are on the waiver wire, I'm not picking up Levis to block because there's other options. So yeah, that sucks.
that's what's happening. Let us know who he plays next so we can go ahead and move on from him.
Yeah, right. Seriously. Daniel Jones is another one. I know the Ageless Wonder mentioned it in the chat. Like, Daniel Jones is a potential, like, if you're I'd take Jones over Levis and who's the other one? I'm forgetting now. Levis and Badgent. Yeah. I would take Jones over those two guys. So, but we just don't know if he's going to be playing, and you got to start Levis by Thursday.
Dayball said he would be cleared and good to go this week.
Well, immediately when Tyrod got hurt, they said he was cleared and good to go. It's funny how that works out.
Yeah.
And they're playing the Raiders this week.
Yeah. Good matchup, except for he's going to be under siege because, Max wants to eat everybody's soul. Yeah.
Then I'd go Daniel Jones.
Full hocus pocus on him.
I know, right? But yeah, I'd go Daniel Jones over Levis and Bagent.
Yeah, I mean, but again, on that same issue, Waller's also banged up now.
Yeah.
Leaving early. Robinson's, again, continuing to deal with his nonsense as well.
I mean, you hope he just gives you like 70 yards on the ground, 150 yards through the air, and a touchdown, and you're like, okay, I survived with like 16 points, You're just trying to survive this week. It's a tough week for quarterbacks, all the injuries and buys.
Why we were telling you about Minshew last week. I mean, if you need to get him, this is why. I mean, that's part of the reason I grabbed him. And I actually should have started. I mean, granted, he only gave me like 0.2 more fantasy points than Trevor Lawrence, but still.
What about, and we just don't know, but what about Heineke? Like,
yeah,
I mean, if Heineke, I'd take Heineke over Levis and Bagent, but we just don't know if he's going to start, unfortunately, because Arthur Smith sounds like he wants to go back to Ritter.
Man, it looks so much better with him under center, though.
It did. Second half, they came out and scored on 3 straight drives, and yeah, I don't know. It's just weird.
Imagine that. No way. Crazy.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
And then, it's just that whole situation, man. It's tough.
All right.
Is Arthur Smith like the most hated coach from fantasy? Like, he has to be, right? Like, it used to be. I don't know who it used to be. Bill Belichick was always frustrating with running backs, but
now it's Arthur Smith. I mean, I know that Robinson had a migraine that one game, but like watching Algier run is one of the most infuriating things to ever.
Yep. And at the goal line, and Bijan should not be getting his first rushing touchdown in week 8. Like, that shouldn't have happened. Crazy. Yeah. I know we're ranting.
Well, no, at this point we're kind of transitioning into running back.
Yeah.
You touched on Bijan a little bit, but more importantly, Leonard Fournette is somehow getting signed to the practice squad for the Bills. Are you worried at all for James Cook? I mean,
Uh,
are you now more worried for James Cook?
I'm a little more worried about Fournette than I was Latavius Murray because we've seen Fournette, actually be good for recently. I know Latavius Murray's a fine player. It's more about him than anything. Like, I am just worried about James Cook in general. Just they don't seem to want to use him in the passing game, on 2-minute drills because he can't pass protect in the goal line. So it's like, man, he's just become between the 20s guy, has to score from 20 yards out essentially. Like, so I am worried about him, but not really. Like, I'm slightly more worried. I just think Fournette's going to maybe kind of replace Damian Harris or Latavius Murray. So that's kind of how I see that. And I don't think he's worth the pickup. I don't know, unless he becomes just scoring a bunch of touchdowns.
Well, playoff winning is a thing. So when it comes to that point, maybe. But until that happens, yeah, I'm not. I just wanted to float it out there because I know that's going to be a question that happens a lot on everywhere this week. So the guy I'm still wanting, and I don't understand why he's not more rostered, is Amari DiMercado, still 39.2% rostered. Has now officially 2 weeks been the RB1 for the Cardinals. Granted, again, horrible matchup, but they continue to use him every possible way. I wish they'd use him more in the passing game, but it's fine. So week 7, they played Seattle. He put up 11.5 fantasy points this past week against the Ravens, a good run defense, 8 fantasy points, and now they get the Browns. So if he can get back up to that 4 reception mark instead of the 1 reception mark they gave him this week, that'd be a more ideal situation because he's really dominating in that area when they give him the short yardage. But
yeah, and if you played him, you made the right choice. He had over 20 touches. Like, you're not going to get that from waiver wire guys.
He needs to score.
I know. But so you made the right choice. Yeah, and is Connor 1 more week and then he can come back? He's eligible. So
yeah,
him,
at least get 1 more week of him. So
yeah.
He might end up being more split because Connor, who actually knows how healthy he's going to be coming back.
True. And he could miss more than, just 1 more week. So, definitely if you need a spot start, DiMercado, the guy I put here, Chuba Hubbard, not super excited about it. But he dominated the snap count. That was weird. Like, Miles Sanders had 2. I think Raheem Blackshear had more carries than Miles Sanders. And it was like Sanders wasn't even on the injury report. So, would you just, like, a little off topic, would you just drop Miles Sanders at this point? Like,
I have them both, so I've been thinking about it. It just really depends on who else is available. I wish that some of these people were available. I picked up Hubbard, clearly the week before because I was like, I don't trust Sanders to stay healthy anyway. But if I'm trying to think of who else, at this point, it's really hard to find running back. Maybe you're hoping if there's some kind of trade, I might look at that, but it's hard to really drop him. Especially because he's, again, the handcuffed.
Yeah. And I would hold on to him 1 more week because Hubbard did not play well. Like, what was it? I think he had 30 yards on like 15, 16 carries or whatever it was. Like, it was not good.
Yeah, so they could just under. I'm pretty sure it was under 3 yards a carry, but I'll take that real quick.
And Hubbard's actually been pretty good this year, except for last week's game. So, but maybe they just think like, okay, that didn't work. Let's go back to Miles Sanders. I would hold him for 1 more week. But they do have a good matchup. They play the Colts in week 9. So if Hubbard is the main guy, like, you could, again, get by with him. Royce Freeman is another one that I mentioned last week. Like, everyone was on Darrell Henderson, and they basically split drives. You get this one, you get this one, and Royce Freeman.
We made sure to talk about it because what really separated him was a touchdown.
Yes. And I think Henderson still outscored him because of the catches.
Yeah.
But Freeman had 44 yards and a touchdown, which is actually
much more efficient.
Yeah, much more efficient. They're playing the Cowboys. The game was out of hand in the first quarter, essentially. Like, so they weren't really going to run the ball. If they can get a better game script, I know Stafford might miss it this week, but Freeman could be a decent play over the next couple of weeks before their bye, just like desperation. But honestly, I think if guys, I list them off again, been talking about them all season: Tajay Spears, Charbonnet, Rico Dowdle, Jaleel McLaughlin, Tank Bigsby, like these high-end handcuffs. If they're one of them are out there and I don't need a spot start, I'm probably just going to take one of them over any of these guys, to be honest.
Yeah, and so Chuba Hubbard, 15 carries, 28 yards,
Ugh.
1.9 yard per carry.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. He did, however, see 2 targets and caught them both for 26 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So you got 4.6 there, which really saved your day.
Yeah.
Bringing up to what? That's 7.4.
Yeah. And I feel like he's been better in the past. Like last year, he averaged almost 5 yards a carry. I know it's a different team and stuff, but a lot of it's the offensive line stuff. So I just feel like he's a little definitely better than 15 for 28.
Yeah.
But yeah, not great for running backs this week.
Well, and again, Texans have a good run defense. So also just something to keep in mind. So, but per usual, wrap that up. Moving to wide receivers. Again, Robinson, Mingo, still seeing a lot of targets. However, the name that we mentioned last week, Demario Douglas.
Yep.
1.2% roster, people. I don't know what you're thinking. Now that Bourne is done for the year, that just sucks. Really hates that for him. I mean, Juju came back, didn't look hardly at all. And then he's also been seeing carries, which is just crazy to me, but he is the one wide receiver that has a spark for the Patriots. He's quick. He has that fast ability to just break off a run. So week 7 versus the Bills, 11.4 fantasy points, and week 8 versus the Dolphins at the Dolphins, 7.9. So this past week, however, 1 carry, 4 yards, 1 carry, 20 yards. Like that's, if he's going to be used on that jet sweep or that end around where he's going to be in motion, I absolutely love that as an option for you because he's quick.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Chargers' Darius Davis.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. I like Demario. I think Devontae Parker had a concussion as well, so he might miss this week.
So about to be the only option left standing.
Yeah.
For the Patriots too, which part of the reason we keep bringing him up.
Yeah. And if he gets even close to like Kendrick Bourne was a fantasy starter in the last few weeks, so if he gets to that level for sure. I listed a few here. Again, not a greatest week. Quentin Johnston, like if the Palmer thing was weird, I thought he was done, like knee hopping on one leg, and then he comes back and I don't know, he was kind of in and out. And so if he's going to miss time, I think Quentin Johnston, I still
he looked a lot better this week.
Yeah, and they were giving him,
good looks.
Like they were getting the ball in his hands and the yards after contact. Like that's his strength is get the ball in his hands and let him run. Like he can't be Mike Williams and target deep downfield and leap over. That's just not him. So if I still have faith, rookie receiver, first round pick, like he still could have a breakout, especially if Palmer's gonna be injured. So there's some upside there. Jahan Dotson, one of the most frustrating because I was all in on him. And I dropped him in one of the leagues I'm in. And
you and me both, man.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. But
once Watson came back and I realized that he was not going to get any looks, but you did it for 2 weeks. Yeah. And then this week he's just right up there with Watson. They both see the same amount of targets. I'm like, I hate you. I hate you so much.
I was like, this was there all year. Why weren't you doing this? And you had a good passing game, Howell. Like, what the heck? But
I meant not Dotson. I meant McLaurin, Golly.
Yeah. No,
I was
fine.
Why? I'm thinking of Dobbs and Watson, which also drives me insane. I hate both these teams so much with the talent they have at wide receiver, and they're just like, we're going to focus on this other guy. Which McLaurin's fine. It's hard to get away from him. I think what really boosted up Dotson this week was Samuel got hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you finally got it to the guy who, when you target him, made some big plays for you. Shocker. I hate it. I hate it here.
And I know it's frustrating, but he definitely needs to be on roster. I don't know if you're going to start him this week, but he needs to be rostered in case, this is him turning the page. And there's a reason why he was he went up to an 8th round, 7th round pick during the draft season. So
he was so good. Again,
McLaurin,
Patriots.
Mm-hmm. I know it's tough. So pick him up, see what happens. Hold on to him if you can. Packers guys like Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed. I don't know how we're feeling. I don't know, that whole
Dobbs
offense
again is the one who's matching Watson at this point. They both saw a lot of targets. Dobbs gets lucky and finds the end zone.
Yeah.
But that offense just looks like trash, and I'm waiting for Jones to come back and see if that fixes anything.
Yeah, I still think like especially Dobbs should be on roster still. He has over 11 PPR points each of the last 2 weeks, even with that offense not looking good. If they take a step forward, like I think Dobbs is going to be pretty good. Jaden Reed is interesting because I think he's their slot receiver, and he had a pretty good game last week. What was it 4 for 80 or something? So I still think definitely Dobbs needs to be rostered and just keep an eye on Jaden Reed if this offense turns corner.
If you're talking about impressive games, we need to bring up Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah, that's just true. It's just so hard. Like I don't know when to start.
I know.
Shaheed.
3 targets, 125 yards and a touchdown. Just let's just YOLO this Garrett Carr. Perfect. But
yeah,
ridiculous.
And it's affecting like Olave. Yeah. I think
him and Olave don't get along whatsoever.
Yeah.
What's up, Ray? All right, lost Kirk and Fields is still out. Who's a better ad, Howe or Levis?
I'd go Howe. Yeah.
It's terrifying, man. I hate them both, but I have to see more of Howe for sure. Drop tank for Douglas. Full PPR. Golly. If you absolutely need a play this week, I mean, maybe, but I know last week is terrifying. You just have to erase that one from your memory because that I don't know what they decided to do after the bye. But the Texans did not do what they should have done coming up of a bye.
No, they looked bad. You know what's weird is I'm just double checking this, but Nico Collins is not running as many routes as like Noah Brown, also Robert Woods when he was there before he got hurt. Like Nico Collins, for whatever reasons, like not running routes and as much as the other guys. It's slightly less, but still up there. Tank Dell. I don't know. It's tough. Like I think I'd still hold on to Dell, but I don't blame you if you need someone this week. You can throw Douglas in there.
Literally the only reason. I'd almost prefer to drop somebody else. It's going to be hard to do, but yeah. Dell still is running so many routes. The Noah Brown thing is very weird.
Mm-hmm. It is. And it was Robert Woods was doing the same thing.
I know.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was just like
both of them are running more routes than Collins is.
Yeah. Weird.
And it's so strange. But maybe it's a health thing. Who knows?
Yeah. And this game, like it felt like they came into it saying we're gonna beat the Panthers by running the ball. They ran it like 30 times and just wasn't effective.
Panthers are horrible against the run, but you have to be able to move the ball.
Yeah. But it's like they came in with that plan and did not change it at all. So I think they get back to maybe throwing the ball a little bit more. Like I think Stroud only threw it 24 times. So
I mean, Damian Pierce had one called back.
And then the fullback hit.
I know. I'm like, I hate this place is stupid.
Yeah. I'm gonna put Singletary on this list, but I just can't bring myself to like. I don't want any running back on this offense. So I don't want the 1B or whatever on this offense. I don't think they're gonna just completely go away from Pierce. So, yeah.
Well, and Pierce is not used in the passing game whatsoever.
I think it's Mike Boone is who they're using. Like it's not even Singletary.
Yeah, they're both being used more in the passing game than Pierce.
Yeah, so it's frustrating, but Khalil Shakir is my last receiver. This is more for deeper leagues. So he had 15 points all the way back on Thursday. Easy to forget that. His snap percentage jumped up to 65%. I think a lot of it due to Dawson Knox getting hurt, and they're just not playing the two tight end sets anymore. They're doing 3 wide receivers, and Shakir's kind of taken over that role as the third guy. So 10 targets for the last 2 weeks. Like he could be a decent, like super desperate play on a good offense, especially if he's going to play 65% of the snaps.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, definitely people to watch for sure and widely available. If you're down, let's see, who did we talk about? Sutton and Judy, Amon-Ra, Reynolds, Laporta, Ayuk, Debo, Ridley, Kirk. Like, I mean, you might get some of these guys up there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah. Off a wide receiver and a tight end. Hey, the guy that we continue to talk about the past, 3 or 4 weeks, is currently tight end 1 on the week. Trey McBride, setting records for the Cardinals. 7.8% rostered. First week with Zach Ertz being completely out, and he sees a ridiculous 14 targets. But week 6 versus the Rams, 10.2 fantasy points. Last week when Ertz went out, he only played half, 5.9 fantasy points. This week versus Baltimore, 25.5 fantasy points.
Awesome. I love
It
it.
is insane. I
Yep.
don't understand why they keep that old man around, but this guy needs to be unleashed. And this week definitely shows why.
Love it. Any worry that they came out and said it's either going to be Clayton Tune or Kyler this week, I think. So like any worry about it was just Josh Dobbs feeding him, or I don't.
I was going to ask the exact same thing, Mike. So you beat me to the punch there. Does the QB situation concern you at all? And I don't think so.
I mean,
it's too hard. He's a short area target who's continuing to make shots after plays after the catch, and then it seems so far that Dobbs couldn't hit Brown to save his life. I doubt anybody else is going to until Murray comes back. And at this point, if it's not him, then I'd much rather go with Trey McBride as that big body in the center guy who's going to be like, oh, sure, give it to me. I'll punch through these guys and we'll get to the end zone.
Yeah. And I know, I think I heard like people going back and looking at Kyler Murray's like target percentage to tight ends, and it was pretty low. But one, he never had a really good tight end. Two, Hopkins is no longer on the team. And Zach Ertz was actually really good last year when Kyler was healthy the first 8 weeks or so, 10 weeks. I think he was like tight end 3 on the year. So I'm super excited about Trey McBride. I think go ahead.
On that same point, I mean, another name being whispered about potentially being traded is Marquise Brown. So if that's the case, definitely need to grab him just in case.
Yeah.
Halloween is tomorrow. Trade deadline is tomorrow. Now is the time.
Yeah, and that's one thing I was going to bring up. Like, obviously, keep an eye on the trade deadline. Good thing is it's going to be done by the time waivers are going to be running. Should be running for most leagues unless you do it like Tuesday morning. But hopefully, you do it Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. So yeah, keep an eye on. Yeah, there's some players that are on the waiver. Michael Wilson, if Marquise Brown gets traded, like a decent Marvin Mims we've been talking about. Rondale Moore
continues to be getting used in the run game as well.
I was upset actually because I dropped Logan Thomas and picked up McBride, and the morning games happened, and Logan Thomas had like 6 for 45 and a touchdown. I was like, oh, I made a mistake, and then nope, garbage time.
Sure
McBride, no, did not. So, and that's the first on my list is Logan Thomas, tight end 10 on the year. He's just going to continue to be part of this offense. Like you'll get a bad week, so you just gotta roll the punches kind of thing. Unless someone better like McBride comes up on the waiver wire, just. He's going to be used. He's tight end 10. He's heavily, I think he's top 10 in like targets and catches this year for tight end. So him and Jake Ferguson just like perpetually on this list of guys that are probably going to float around 50% all year long. Another streamer, 8.7 points per game, 3 double-digit points out of the 7 weeks. And he still has the most targets in the red zone tied with Kelsey. So
finally, he's made his way back after being hurt for a couple of games.
So I'm going McBride for upside.
Yes, that
just did it.
Yes, at this point, yes, we're picking up McBride. Finally. I mean, don't get me wrong, Thomas is going to be very consistent, but if the Cardinals are continuing to be bad, and if they're often continue to move like this, it's going to be very difficult to get away from him.
Yeah, I agree, and he could just. And this isn't just out of nowhere. He was the top tight end drafted last year. A lot of people liked him coming out of college. Like this isn't just like
when Ertz started to have his injuries, he was getting going last year, and then it just quietly went away. Ertz came back. It was week 1, and then again, it's been ramping up. We talked about it last week. It was like he had 1 target, 3 targets, 5 targets, and then it just kept going up and up. So here we are.
Yep. Taysom Hill. Another tough one where like this is getting a little deeper. I obviously like the other 3 that we mentioned first, and
I love Hill, but I don't know why at this point. Don't get me wrong, I love Johnson. I think he's very talented, but if they're not going to throw it to him, use Hill. Like he was looking so good as a tight end and was really helping your offense move down the field. Yeah, you got lucky this week with the rushing.
Yeah, but I think they're going to keep doing that. Like. They're not going to use Jamal Williams, like it's going to be just Taysom Hill. They use him at the red zone. Like I still like he had 2 pass attempts. One of them was 44-yard to Shaheed. So like, I don't know. It's tough to predict it, but if you're kind of desperate, I don't mind Hill, and those other 3 guys are picked up. Michael Mayer going tonight. He was pretty good with Garoppolo. The one game where he started to play more and Garoppolo was healthy. I think he had his best game. So just pay attention to that tonight. Like he could have if he has a solid game. And then David Njoku, I don't know what his roster percentage is, but he's been playing a lot better the last few weeks, and he was pretty awful the first 3-4 weeks.
63%.
Okay, so he's a little more shallow leagues, but he's been playing a lot better, and he's another guy that has the talent for sure. So, one last thing I wanted to mention. I wanted to bring this up. I know our slogan sometimes is abolish the tight end. Tight end is deep this year, like really, really deep. I think there's 10 tight ends averaging double-digit points so far this year, and that doesn't even include guys like McBride, Kincaid. I could be a little off on that.
Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 double digits.
And again, that's Logan Thomas isn't there. Komet,
yeah.
Oh, Logan Thomas is there.
Yep. After this week, it's Thomas, Waller, Goddard, Komet, Laporta, who hasn't even played but is at 13. Evan Ingram, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, and Travis Kelce.
Yeah, so then we expect me and you expect McBride to get there at some point. Kincaid
and at this point, Kincaid is at 8.8. That could easily happen. Taysom Hill is at 8.7. McBride is currently at 19, but he's at 7.2 fantasy points. And I mean,
so don't abolish the tight end. Keep the tight end around.
You're making the reverse argument of what you think you're making.
Probably.
Yeah.
If there was like a clear separation of top end tight ends, like there are at even quarterback or wide receiver and running back for sure. But there's Travis Kelce, and then there's 9 guys that are in double digits, and then there's 20 guys between 5 points and 9 points right behind them. So it's sure, I guess technically it's deep, but that's just every tight end in the league. Can they fall in the end zone? Sure.
But
go for it.
The top 3 tight ends are all over 100 fantasy points.
Yeah.
All right.
That's pretty good.
Does that help? To give you a separation.
Last year we had 5 tight ends. 5 tight ends with double-digit points. At least we're getting some. We're not looking at our tight end score every week and be like, oh, great, I got 6 points. We're like, okay, my tight ends are actually producing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
a wide receiver 3. The top 3 tight ends are currently a wide receiver 3, or with that being over Gabe Davis, who's at 102.2 currently.
There you go.
So abolish wide receiver 3.
I'm sticking with Neil's just make offensive player. Just forget wide receiver and tight end. Just make the pass catcher role and just play however many wide receivers and tight ends you want in 3 spots.
Yeah, but I think there's some strategy in do I take Kelce in the first round because it's I'm so much better than everyone else.
At this point, yes.
And on that same point, those 3 tight ends are also an RB 12 or better.
There you go. Yeah.
In what, total points or
PPR?
No, I mean in total points or points per game. What are you looking
at?
Total
points. Even in points per game, it's a little closer.
Because it's Hawkinson, Andrews, and then Kelce. I made the argument over the summer that you could justify Travis Kelce at 1 of 1.
Yeah.
And I'd say that other than Christian McCaffrey, that probably still stands. It's just such a clear advantage. He's got a 5 point per game advantage over Andrews. And who knows what's going to happen now with Hawkinson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's rough.
Yeah.
But Hawkinson and Andrews, 15 points a game. That's still pretty solid. That's like Breece Hall, what Breece Hall's doing on a points per game basis.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit better than Tony Pollard, Bijan Robinson.
I was like, a little better. That should be demolishing Tony Pollard at this point.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard's got 14.7 points per game.
Ugh. That's surprising to me. I feel like he looks so bad this year.
He's had a bad couple of games recently, but he started the season really hot.
Okay, maybe that's what it is. I just
22, 19, 20, and then 9, 8, 17, and 6.
Yeah.
It's been rough lately.
Yeah.
And this last week was the one that I was like prepared for him to have one of his best games because the game script was like feeding into it.
Yeah.
And they dominated. Like, it wasn't their offense dominated. It was a CD Lamb game, obviously, but yeah, it's a little concerning for sure. Like, the explosive plays are just not there for him.
Yeah, he hasn't had a run like over 16 yards this year.
Yeah, it's insane.
I feel it's extremely frustrating as anybody who is managing Pollard. It's just like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
You kind of have to just roll him out and hope for the best, but it's.
Yeah. But I mean, this is what it is. I mean, you had Kelsey, who was a first round guy, right? And then you had Andrews and Hawkinson, who were first 5 rounds for sure, right?
I feel like it was
Andrews was like the third.
Yeah.
Third or fourth. And then Hawkinson was in like the 5th or 6th round, something like that, probably in ADP.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to guess.
I think even a little higher, to be honest.
And Kittle was definitely 3rd round by Andrews, and he's 5th right now. You've got Laporta, who was going undrafted, is in the top 5. You've got Evan Ingram, who was going pretty much untouched, is number 6. You've got Dallas Goedert, who people were paying up for. Cole Kmet, people paying up for. Logan Thomas was going undrafted, top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Darren Waller, huge disappointment. Was going like tight end 4, and now is like tight end 11 and hurt. So it's just tight end's a complete and total crapshoot every single year.
I mean, look at the running backs this year. It's almost like they are like Mostert, Kyron Williams, Zach Moss, even Swift and Pacheco, like in the top 10 is no one but Achan.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just a crazy year in general for sure. But yeah, tight ends are definitely, they don't pay up for them. I'm just saying it's nice to see more than 3 of them or 4 of them putting up double-digit points.
Actually usable on a weekly basis. Yeah, sure.
Yes,
I'll give you
having options.
Okay. Well, now that we've exhausted that talk, we'll move into more things that people care about, like streaming defenses. And gonna bring it up because we don't know who the quarterback for the Steelers is going to be. Titans are 2.7% rostered currently.
You don't believe in Mitch Trubisky? Come on.
It's because I love Mitch so much.
Believe in a dream.
Turn that ball over at least twice. And I'm hoping one's a pick 6. So
just don't throw to the left. That's all you got to do. Never throw left.
Yeah, but that in mind, I mean, Titans have been very solid. Their only negative games was against the Colts when Minshew just threw for over 300 yards. Which, sometimes that happens, I guess. But really think Trubisky's going to get the start. Week 6 versus the Ravens, they put up 4 fantasy points. And Week 8 versus the Falcons, they put up 8. So in between that range is a very startable defense for you. And especially if it is going to be Trubisky. So kind of love that option. Yeah, if somebody prefer, or I mean.
Yeah, I mean, if the Browns are still out there, I look at, for some reason I can't access the ESPN roster, but the NFL.com is still under 50%. Just pick them up if they're still out there. They have like an incredible playoff schedule as well if you're kind of looking good for the playoffs. So they're just
Browns
a really good defense.
78% on ESPN.
All right. Well, ESPN knows what they're doing then. So apparently.
It's also short. It's also usually, I mean, ESPN, I think, is a lot of 10-team leagues.
Yep.
So that also kind of boosts them up too.
Yeah. So, the Patriots were dropped a lot because they played Miami this last week. They played Washington in week 9, 3rd most points given up to defenses. Washington and Patriots, I think, still have a solid defense. The Raiders, I think if we've been talking about them for like 3 weeks now, just like really good matchups. Play the Giants. So what if it's not Daniel Jones or Tyrod Taylor and it's Tommy DeVito? Like his -7 passing yards, whatever it was, -1.
Well, when you run the same play 7 times in a row, you got really lucky that last one wasn't just straight up picked off for a touchdown.
Yeah. And it just shows you how valuable
backups are. Yeah.
Having a good backup's important, but also just like you can't find that many good quarterbacks. Like the 3rd stringer you would think a third stringer on an NFL team could do something, but I don't know. Apparently not. So, and then dare I say it, the Chargers. Am I finally coming
now
around?
you want to believe. Now you're on board.
I mean, I was looking. I was surprised. I thought I saw that they haven't had they've actually been okay every week, like 5 points at least.
I told you.
That.
I was telling you last week, and you're like, "Man, I don't trust it, even against the Bears."
Even against the Dolphins, they had 0 points. They didn't kill you. So I'm finally coming around.
Willing to do it. I'm still not willing to do it. I know my Chargers team. I am terrified.
They play the Jets, right?
Exactly. I am terrified.
So I mean, they've been better against the run. If they can shut down Breece Hall, I think we're looking good. So I'm finally coming around. You get the Chargers for at least just 1 week because they played Detroit.
That is their one positive is their run defense has gotten better. Yeah,
which isn't very hard. They were historically bad.
We were bottom 2, and I don't think it's gotten better. I think we're at 29th or 28th, but still.
But Jets, they obviously they give up a lot of points to the defenses. I think they're top 10. They're not terrible, but not a bad option there, I'd say.
Terrifying.
I know it is.
I'm glad that you're willing to decide with seed because I am not doing it. But
yeah, I mean, I was surprised that they haven't had any negative points or more 0 point game. Only besides that Miami game, every game 5 or more. So yeah, maybe I was just blindly ignoring it. Two game. Oh no, just 1 game in double-digit points. So yeah, I mean,
I understand why. I do, but I've watched them play, and guess what? Next week we get to watch them live because they're going to be on Monday Night Football. I'm sorry, and it's versus the Jets.
Yeah.
Ugh.
No. I know.
Nope. I'm glad we won. Got that dub.
I'm glad we won, and it wasn't
close.
Didn't come down to a field goal,
more than a single score.
Yeah, I forget. Someone said, I forget who it was. They said if they were playing a high school team, it would still come down to a field goal at the end of the game. I was like, yeah. And I saw them favored by 8 points. I was like, I would never take the Chargers favored by more than 4. But
the one time they actually beat or match the spread.
Yeah.
Oy. Yep. Ridiculous. But with that in mind, I mean, Lions and Raiders have kicked off. I hope you all get to enjoy that. I have the Lions as my defense for this week. I think I might have made a mistake, but I'm also going up against Myers and Adams, and I'm winning by 16. So here's to hoping that they can do some damage against the Raiders because I'm nervous.
Yeah. I need 30 from Devontae Adams and Jacobs. So let's see if that happens.
Yeah, if that happens, I lose. So we're going against each other here, Mike. But yeah, we'll get out of here. Thank you so much for watching. Haven't already, make sure you join the Discord. Mike's in there helping you with all your trades. We answer any questions that come in. I mean, it's a whole team that is more willing to help you in any sort of way. So outside of that, I hope you all have a good week. We're on to week 9, I guess. So keep that in mind. And as always, keep up the nonsense.